Buddy, your alarm's going off. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I have been asked quite recently in the past to do a whole let's talk about or just videos surrounding the 5 steps of grief, because unfortunately my granddad passed away over the summer and I have just been asked on multiple occasions how I'm dealing with it and what the grief cycle was like for me personally. 2 disclaimers before we start this. One is a big chunk of this information was provided or it came from psychcentral.com. In no way sponsored or paid to say anything about the website, but I found it very useful, and I think if you are struggling with grief or just curious about it, it's the place to be, and if you want to have a look at it, it will be in the description box below. Second thing is everyone's reactions to grief and trauma is a little bit different, but these are the generalized steps that everyone should go through. Maybe not in this order, maybe not in this fashion, but roundabout way this is how humans deal with grief. Without further ado, let's talk about grief. The first step of grief is denial/isolation. This is the first step of the grief process, and it is one of the most natural ways that the brain deals with experiences it doesn't want to relive, it doesn't want to be a part of, and it will just totally deny it entirely. The brain will pretend that it is not happening and that it's just not aware of the situation at all. Second stage of the grief cycle is anger. In stage 1, feelings start to dissolve or fizzle away. Feelings of anger and resentment take its place. Even though the feeling of denial has passed, the brain and the person going through the trauma still isn't really ready to face up to what happened, and people normally are stuck in this stage for a very, very long time. The anger can be directed at anybody, from yourself to the people to just the situation in general. It can also have no specific, pinpoint. You can't really pinpoint where it is coming from, but it is the traumatic experience that has caused it. Maybe you're not aware of it yourself. The third stage of the grief cycle is bargaining. This is the if only stage. If only I had texted him back quicker. If only I had visited my grandpa more. If only that I'd done this certain thing and then this horrible traumatic experience would not have happened. A lot of people in breakups and death of tragic family members go through this because they feel like they are somewhat responsible, or they could have had more of the effort while the person was alive or in their life in general. If only I was good enough is a popular thing to think about in the bargaining stage of grief. Our bodies literally go through this what if stage of bargaining and thinking that we could do better and literally daydreaming about other possibilities and scenarios that could have happened if it would have gone differently. It's just your body still being in denial, but being a little bit like, what if I had done something differently? Fourth stage of the grief cycle is depression. According to psychologists, which I am not one, so don't pay attention to me, there are apparently 2 types of depression that come from grief. One of them is where sadness and guilt dominates your feelings. You worry about it. You kind of are still thinking the what ifs, worrying about the future, money, what time we kind of have left. If someone in your past has died and then you've kind of come back from it and you're like, I wonder how much life the rest of my family members have. Second form is private. As we begin to prepare ourselves to say goodbye to a loved one, mentally and physically. People may think that you're over the grief, but you're actually going through private depression, and it's the kind of depression that happens in closed doors. You act like you're okay to people's face, and then as soon as you get into your bedroom or a closed environment, a safe environment, you know that you won't be judged or anything like that, you're totally not okay, and the depression then kicks in. Last step of the grief cycle is acceptance. Not everybody reaches acceptance, and that is the most important thing. You may go through this cycle once, twice, 3 times, even 4 times before you come up with a fully accepted plan or a notion that you've accepted the grief in itself. Coping with loss is ultimately an individual's capability, it's not universal, and it can change from person to person. Nobody can help you go through it fully. No one can help you especially recover fully. People can support you, don't get me wrong, but they can't fully cure you and get rid of it. But at the end of the day, the only person that really understands your emotions and can help you is you. If you don't figure that out, then you won't find acceptance. That's another thing to highlight in this grief video, is that no grief is under or on top of anybody else's grief. Everybody goes through things in their life that they struggle with, or they find very traumatic, or they can't really deal with, and they need support or help or go through the grief cycle with. You may lose a child, or you may have a breakup, or a family member will die. But at the end of the day, we still go through the same cycle, the same steps. Sometimes we don't find acceptance. And that's acceptance in itself. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a massive thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I make videos every single Wednesday on the channel. I post videos every single Monday on my booktube channel. It will be linked in the description box below. And I will see you in next week's video. 1, 4, 3. Bye. Mwah.